Commander Vexthor of the Krillian Armada stood on the bridge of his flagship, his four eyes narrowing at the tactical display before him. For 3 centuries, the Krillians had dominated this sector of space with their mathematically perfect warships, vessels designed by the galaxy's most advanced computational matrices, every angle optimized, every system redundant, every possibility calculated. And yet, impossibly, they were losing. Report. Vexthor clicked, his mandibles twitching with barely contained frustration. The human vessel continues to evade our targeting solutions, Commander, his tactical officer responded, confusion evident in his bioluminescent patterns. It shouldn't be possible. Their ship violates 17 fundamental principles of combat engineering. Vexthor had seen the intelligence reports. The human warship, they called it the Defiant, was an absurdity. It was asymmetrical, where all proper warships maintained perfect balance. It had components jutting out at random angles, disrupting what should have been clean energy flow. Most baffling of all, it appeared to have been modified in the field, with hull plating that didn't match, weapon systems from 3 different manufacturers, and what the analysts swore was a civilian-grade reactor pushing military-grade shields. By every logical measure, it should have torn itself apart the moment it entered combat. Instead, it had destroyed 4 Krillian destroyers. All ships converge on target, Vexthor commanded. Overwhelming force. End this farce. 12 Krillian warships, each a masterpiece of calculated perfection, moved into position. Their weapons locked onto the human vessel, firing solutions achieved with microsecond precision. The Defiant dodged, not with the smooth, predictable maneuvers of a ship following optimal evasion algorithms. No, it twisted through space like a drunken insect, spinning and rolling in patterns that made no tactical sense. The Krillian targeting computers, designed to predict every possible movement based on thrust vectors and momentum, simply couldn't keep up with something that refused to follow the rules. Aboard the Defiant, Captain Sarah Chen gripped her chair as the ship bucked beneath her. Rodriguez, I need those starboard thrusters back online. Working on it, Captain, her engineer shouted over the comm. But I'm telling you, we're running this boat on duct tape and prayers at this point. Then pray harder, Chen snapped, though a grin tugged at her lips. Mitchell, give me another one of those crazy spins. Her pilot, Lieutenant James Mitchell, laughed as his hands danced across controls that were half standard issue and half custom modifications he'd made himself. You mean the Tilt-A-Whirl Deluxe? That's the one. The Defiant corkscrewed through space in a maneuver that would have made any military academy instructor weep. But it worked. Krillian plasma bolts streaked past them, missing by meters. Their computers can't handle chaos, Chen observed, watching the tactical display. They're too perfect, too predictable. It was humanity's greatest strength, she'd come to realize. Humans were messy. They improvised. They broke their own rules, modified their equipment in ways the manuals explicitly forbid, and somehow made it work through sheer stubborn determination and creative problem-solving. The Defiant itself was a testament to that philosophy. It had started as a standard frigate, but after 3 years of constant deployment and no access to proper shipyards, her crew had transformed it into something entirely unique. When the port weapons array failed, they'd salvaged railguns from a destroyed freighter. When the reactor started overheating, Rodriguez had installed a coolant system that technically belonged on ice mining equipment. The armor plating was a patchwork of materials from a dozen different ships. Every regulation said the Defiant shouldn't fly, but it did. And more than that, it fought. Captain, I'm reading a power spike in their flagship, her sensor officer called out. They're charging some kind of super weapon. Chen's eyes hardened. The Krillians were getting desperate. That was good. Desperate enemies made mistakes. But a super weapon was still a super weapon. Rodriguez, I need everything you can give me. Mitchell, plot us a collision course with that flagship. Captain? Mitchell's voice held uncertainty for the first time. Trust me. When I give the word, I want you to pull the hardest reverse thrust this bucket of bolts has ever done. Can you manage that? A pause. Then Mitchell's confidence returned. Hell yes, I can. The Defiant accelerated directly toward the Krillian flagship, all pretense of evasion abandoned. On Vexthor's bridge, satisfaction rippled through his bioluminescence. Finally, the humans were behaving predictably. Finally, they were following the logical course of action. A desperate final charge. His superweapon would vaporize them before they closed half the distance. Firing solution locked, his weapons officer confirmed. Weapon charged to 97%, 98, 99. Now! Chen shouted. The Defiant's main engines roared to life in reverse at full burn. The ship didn't just stop, it practically fell backward through space, dropping away from the flagship just as the superweapon fired. The massive energy beam, calibrated for the Defiant's predicted position, streaked through empty space instead, and struck 3 Krillian destroyers that had been positioned in a perfect support formation, behind where the human ship was supposed to be. "All weapons, fire!" Chen commanded. The Defiant unleashed everything it had. Mismatched weapon systems that shouldn't have worked together but somehow created overlapping fields of destruction. Railgun rounds, plasma torpedoes, and what Rodriguez swore was a mining laser that he'd accidentally overclocked. The Krillian flagship's shields, already weakened from firing the superweapon, buckled under the assault. Vexthor watched in disbelief as his perfect formation collapsed into chaos. The humans had turned his own strategy against him. They had made him destroy his own ships. "All vessels retreat," he ordered, the words bitter. "Prepare for emergency jump." As the Krillian armada fled, Captain Chen allowed herself to relax slightly. The Defiant was still holding together, barely. Warning lights flashed across every console, and she was certain Rodriguez would spend the next week cursing as he performed repairs. But they'd won. "Captain," Mitchell said, a note of awe in his voice. "We just beat the most advanced fleet in the sector with a ship that's literally held together with spare parts." Chen smiled. "That's humanity for you, Lieutenant. We don't win because we follow the rules. We win because we're too stubborn to know when we're supposed to lose." In the distance, the Krillian ships vanished into hyperspace, leaving the battered but triumphant Defiant floating among the debris. The warship that defied all logic had done the impossible once again, and somewhere in the galaxy, other alien races were beginning to learn a crucial lesson. When fighting humans, throw away your calculations. Logic didn't apply to a species that ran on improvisation, determination, and the unshakable belief that duct tape could fix anything.